The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the faint hum of the ceiling fan. The smell of polished wood mixed with tension in the air. Every eye was locked on one man. The defense attorney, standing tall, papers trembling slightly in his hand. But it wasn't fear that made them shake. It was something far deeper, something personal. Today, he wasn't just questioning a witness. He was facing his past. Your Honor. His voice echoed softly but firmly. The defense would like to call its next witness. From the corner of the room, an elderly woman stood. Her movements were slow, deliberate, but her eyes burned with the kind of truth that makes liars tremble. She took the stand, her frail fingers clutching the edges of the wood as the oath was read. The attorney approached. His heart thudded against his ribs like a drumbeat in a storm. He knew this woman. He knew her voice before she even spoke. Because 15 years ago, she had been the one to testify against his father and send him to prison for a crime he didn't commit. The courtroom murmured. The judge tapped the gavel once for silence. The attorney's throat tightened, but he straightened his tie, pretending his world wasn't crumbling inside. Please state your name for the record, he said, voice barely steady. Margaret Lewis, she replied, her tone even, her gaze unwavering. He nodded, forcing a polite smile. Mrs. Lewis, do you remember testifying in the case of State versus Anderson 15 years ago? Her eyes flickered, just for a second. I do. And do you recall who you accused that day? A pause. Yes, your father. The air grew heavy. Even the jury shifted in their seats. The attorney's hands curled into fists behind the podium. He took a breath, deep, controlled. Mrs. Lewis, I'm going to ask you a few questions. And I want the truth. Not what you were told. Not what you believed. The truth. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. He stepped closer, his voice low but sharp as glass. You testified that you saw my father near the scene the night of the fire. You said you saw him arguing with Mr. Reynolds before the explosion. Is that correct? Yes. But you also said you were 50 yards away. It was raining. There were no streetlights. So tell me, Mrs. Lewis, how could you possibly recognize anyone in those conditions? Her hands trembled. She blinked, searching for words. I was told it was him. The officers said. He cut in. You didn't see him clearly, did you? She looked down. No. The courtroom gasped. The judge leaned forward. Counselor, control your questioning. He nodded quickly. Of course, Your Honor. Then, turning back to her, his tone softened. Mrs. Lewis, I'm not here to humiliate you, but I need the truth, for the sake of the man who lost everything. A tear slipped down her wrinkled cheek. I was scared, she whispered. They told me if I didn't testify, I'd be charged too. I didn't know what to do. The attorney's voice cracked. You sent an innocent man to prison, Mrs. Lewis. You took away his freedom and my childhood. Silence. The words hung there, heavy as grief. She broke. Shoulders shaking, she wept openly. I'm sorry. I've lived with that guilt every single day. The judge cleared his throat. Let's maintain order in the court. But the damage was done. The truth was out. And the lie that had haunted his family for years was finally breaking apart. The attorney took a step back, staring at her through blurred vision. His voice trembled. Do you know what my father did in prison, Mrs. Lewis? He taught inmates how to read. He wrote letters to families who stopped visiting. He found purpose in pain. He forgave you long before this day. She gasped softly, hand covering her mouth. The attorney looked at the jury now. My father didn't just lose his freedom. He lost his name, his dignity. But today, I stand here not for revenge, but for justice. Real justice. He turned to the judge. The defense rests. The courtroom erupted into whispers. The prosecutor stood, flustered, his case unraveling. For the first time in 15 years, the truth had been spoken, raw, painful, but freeing. As the judge called for recess, the attorney sat down, his shoulders shaking. He felt a hand on his shoulder, strong, trembling. When he looked up, there was his father, sitting quietly in the back row, tears glistening in his eyes. The attorney couldn't move. The world blurred as his father approached, placing a calloused hand against his cheek. "You did what I couldn't," he whispered. "You gave me back my name." The son broke down. Years of anger, guilt, and longing poured out in a single embrace. The courtroom, once cold and distant, now felt like sacred ground, a place where pain had met redemption. When the trial resumed, the verdict was swift. The conviction from 15 years ago was overturned. His father was officially declared innocent. The crowd stood in stunned silence as the judge read the words that healed generations of wounds. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed, cameras flashing like lightning. But the attorney didn't care about fame or headlines. He only looked at his father, free, proud, alive. Reporters shouted questions. "How does it feel to win this case?" one asked. He smiled faintly. "It's not about winning. It's about truth. It's about never letting fear silence what's right." His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "And forgiveness," he added softly. That night, as they sat together under the stars for the first time in years, the old man said, "You know, son, justice doesn't erase pain. It just makes it bearable." The attorney nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "And truth," he said quietly, "is the only thing that sets us free." They sat in silence, two men bound by blood and broken time, but finally at peace. Because sometimes the hardest questions in court aren't the ones asked out loud. They're the ones whispered in the heart, the ones that demand courage to answer. And in that courtroom, on that unforgettable day, one man found the strength to ask, and another found the grace to forgive. The story of questioning the witness isn't about law or victory. It's about redemption. It's about facing your past, no matter how painful, and daring to uncover the truth that can heal. If the story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever held back the truth out of fear, or found the courage to forgive when it seemed impossible? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to read them. And if you believe in stories that remind us of justice, truth, and forgiveness, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more powerful tales, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that the truth always finds its way home.